Good morning and welcome to Good News Gab. This is Judy DeWalt and it is Monday, April 20th, 10 o'clock in the morning here in Richmond, Virginia. And welcome to another segment of Good News. Will have a guest reporter in just a few minutes. But on to good news. The first story this morning is the Lego factory is now producing thousands of protective plastic face masks for medical workers. The Lego Group is offering their assistance to healthcare workers on the front line of COVID-19 crisis by using their facility to produce thousands of protective facial visors. According to an Instagram post that was published by Lego earlier this week, the company's Billund-based factory in Denmark has reworked some of their machinery to make more than 13,000 plastic masks per day. This mask will reportedly be distributed to hospitals and medical facilities across the country. Although these visors do not offer the same kind of protection as an N95 mask, individuals and businesses around the world have been producing the plastic shields as well as homemade cloth masks for medical workers to use as additional protection in high-risk areas. This week, we began to make visors at our factory in Billund for healthcare workers on the front line in Denmark, wrote the company. We are so incredibly proud of the team who made this happen. They worked around the clock to create designs and make molds that can produce more than 13,000 visors a day. We are grateful to have such talented and dedicated, caring colleagues. Lego also announced this week that they would be donating 500,000 brick sets to children in need during the novel corona outbreak. The company did not specify how the sets would be distributed, but they did ask their social media fans to show additional support to the NHS by building a Lego brick rainbow in solidarity. This is not the first time that corporations have stepped forward to help during the COVID-19 crisis. Famed engineer and inventor James Dyson designed a ventilator for the UK government in just 10 days. And then he volunteered to donate 5,000 of the devices. IKEA staffers also donated 50,000 N95 masks to a Swedish hospital after they discovered the coveted masks collecting dust in a warehouse. A Chinese tech company sent tens of thousands of respirator masks to Italian hospitals hard hit by the virus. The New England Patriots even made headlines last week when they used their private team jet to transport 1.2 million N95 masks from China to New York and Boston for hospitals in need. Companies are stepping up and doing what they can do to help. I would like to see if my special correspondent is available. I will go on until she's available.
I am here.
Okay, she's here and ready to go. I have a chair right here next to me.
Thanks, Judy. This is very wonderful what you're doing.
Welcome, Suzanne.
Good morning, everybody. How are you?
Suzanne is one of our sales consultants at Everly Short Pump, and welcome her to our news broadcast this morning.
I'm happy to be here. It's always fun.
It is always fun.
We give these great stories. They're very inspiring, and we need to have that. So my story is about a WW2 vet who lives in England, a small little village in England. And it's a really close story for me. It's awesome because my father, who unfortunately has passed away, was a WW2 vet. So I have a special place in my heart for those who serve and also those who have served in WW2. So I will read this inspiring story. An English World War II veteran who has been walking laps around his back garden has raised over 2.6 million pounds, that's $3.3 million for the NHS in just 1 week. 99-year-old Tom Moore says the NHS have been marvelous, quote unquote, in helping him recover from a hip replacement and skin cancer on his head over the last couple of years. As a way of saying thank you, the former civil engineer has been doing daily laps of his 25-meter long, which is 82 feet, garden, with the aim of walking 100 lengths by his 100th birthday on April 30th. Moore, who began his walks last Monday on April 6th, initially set a fundraising target of £1,000 for his NHS charities together, with the sole expectation of gathering support from his village of Marston, Moortime, Bedfordshire. After hitting international headlines last week, however, Moore quickly smashed through that target and has now raised over millions for frontline health workers fighting the novel coronavirus. Quote, "I thank the British public from the bottom of my heart," unquote, Moore told BBC. Quote, "It's difficult to imagine all these kind people who have donated so far. It's just amazing," unquote. Moore's daughter, Hannah Ingram Moore, who set up the fundraising page for him, has had to raise his target 3 different times, from £1,000 to £100,000, then to £250,000 to £500,000. She later took to Twitter to say, quote, "We are overwhelmed by the response. It's extraordinary," unquote. Although Moore has already smashed his original donation goal, he is now hoping to complete another 100 laps, that's pretty impressive, of his yard to continue raising money for the NHS. So if you would like to support Moore's charity efforts, be sure to visit his Just Giving crowdfunding page. Thank you, guys, and I think that's a great article.
Thank you.
You
Thanks
are
for
very
sharing
welcome.
it.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you joining me this morning.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Suzanne. Thanks again. All right, we have a story out of Canada today. Teens launch hotline for isolated seniors to listen to pre-recorded jokes, stories, and messages of hope. As a means of entertaining lonely adults during the novel coronavirus outbreak, a team of Canadian high schoolers created a hotline that plays pre-recorded messages of positivity. The Joy for All project, and that is a JOY number 4 ALL project, launched by students from the Ever Active Schools recreational leadership program run by the Calgary Board of Education. The youngsters say they created the hotline as means of comforting quarantined seniors across North America. However, people of all ages are encouraged to dial 1-877-JOY-4-ALL in order to enjoy the regularly updated selections of jokes, stories, guided meditation, and educational messages. Since the hotline launched earlier this week, the youngsters will now be updating the pre-recorded content until June. Although, if social restrictions continue throughout the summer, then the teams hope to continue to adding phone selections until adults are free from self-isolation. A lot of folks who are in isolation are really missing their families right now, said Everactive school teacher Jamie Anderson. So we are trying to fill in some of the gaps and bring them a little bit of joy and levity during the difficult time. Youngsters are also encouraged to submit their own messages and recordings through the Joy for All website. Children and youth can submit their own written messages, content, and even recordings. Reads the website. We encourage kindness, creativity, and diverse messages of joy, especially for our Indigenous elders in isolation, as well as seniors who are newcomers, immigrants, and refugees. I will have that website put on the Everly Short Pump Facebook page and included in my weekly newsletter, and also the 877 number if you would like to call in and hear some pre-recorded messages from some very, very caring young children, young adults out of Canada. I have a hi, so I will write back, hello, and thanks for joining us. Hey dear. Our one last article today is, I think, one of the best one I've come across. The title of this is How to Be Happier During COVID. Decades of science show that gratitude, love, and connection can save your life. With no vaccine or drug that reduces symptoms readily available to help the body combat COVID-19, social distancing and self-isolations are one of the most effective measures of prevention to ensure that hospitals don't become overwhelmed with sick patients. But the methods most readily available to help reduce stress and anxiety resulting from seriously difficult times, an embracing hug, seeing friends, visiting parents or grandparents, are things that we are told not to do. There are other options, however, and over 50 years of documented research suggests that we can reduce stress and symptoms of anxiety and even physical pain responses by doing them. In meta-analysis looking at a half century of research, scientists have found that both the act of smiling and seeing smiles can actually make people happier. We can try it right now. And a smile does help. In another pilot study, scientists confirmed that altruistic acts such as charitable actions towards neighbors and strangers, altruistic giving, and donating blood can actually reduce physical sensations related to pain. The Washington Post reminds us that before we had tools or intelligence to invent them, our earliest ancestors had teamwork and social groups. We have evolved over millions of years to be close to people we love, to hold them, hear their voice, and perform tasks together. When we are isolated from other humans, hormonal changes, typical of crouching hunter on the plains of the African in dawn of humanity, takes over our brain, mainly to prepare us for danger. Norepinephrine, associated with a fight or flight response, but also inflammation increases. Inflammation helps heal wounds, but it is also shown to exacerbate symptoms of anxiety and depression. But being alone and isolated doesn't mean that you're at the mercy of your biology. It can also work in your favor. Scientists from the University of Arizona found in an examination of 102 people that simply thinking about a romantic partner reduces symptoms of stress, anxiety, and general feelings of sadness as much as if the person was actually in the room. The scope of the COVID-19 impact of the United States, particularly in New York City, is being compared with that of World War II, or for the younger folk, of September 11th attacks. But the difference between these tribulations that were noted by Tim Dillon, a former New York City tour bus guide turned famous stand-up comedian, on the recent episode of his podcast, The Tim Dillon Show, he says, you could be together, you could hug each other, kiss people on the cheek. You could go out and eat pumpkin muffins and talk about how many bombs were going to be dropped on the evildoers. But the pandemic restricts these natural forms of mental fornication at the very moment we most need it. As Sarah Kaplan, writing the post neatly, summarizes, 6 feet never felt so far. However, in almost every case imaginable, social interaction, even in distant abstract forms like imagination, proves to have measurable impact on our health and well-being. So if you see something in the mainstream media that gets you down, try calling a friend, telling them how much they mean to you. Express gratitude for another person's presence or a gift, as well as receiving expressions of gratitude, however awkward, was found to be, in a study, to be enough to trigger beneficial neurological changes that resulted in better mental health for both the sender and the recipient. In a time when social butterflies within all of us are stagnating, it's never been more important to tell someone that you love them and miss them. Thanks again for joining us. On that note, I hope you all reach out to somebody today and tell them how much you love them and you're grateful for them. I'm grateful for all of you for joining me today, and I will see you next week. Bye now.